Welcome to the Nomiki Show. I am Nomiki Konst. We are on day 147 of self-quarantine. On this week's show, we have Ken Klippenstein from The Nation. He is the DC correspondent, master of FOIAs and leaks, and boy does he have one that came out this week. The government is trying to investigate members quote-unquote members of Antifa. It's a jaw-dropping report. You'll want to stick around for that. But first, we have Jonathan Hirschman, who is a member of the Jaffe Tenants Association, which is out of Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. They are a group of renters, tenants, who are going door-to-door, organizing fellow tenants so that they can fight back against this evictions crisis that is looming across the nation. This is part of an ongoing series we are going to be doing on tenants' rights, because I can't tell you how many emails and messages I get from our patrons, from our listeners, from our viewers on what to do right now in this crisis. Millions of Americans are facing evictions, so we're going to make sure to cover that. But first, guys, if you are not already subscribing, make sure to click like and subscribe on YouTube and share on our social media, on Instagram, at The Nomiki Show, on Twitter, at The Nomiki Show. You can follow me on Facebook at Nomiki Konst. And of course, if you're not a patron, and those of you who are patrons, thank you, because we have some big announcements, and it's really because of you. But if you're not, you can join for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show. If you want to go a little bit more, we've got fun swag. We have mugs and bags and stickers and some more stuff coming soon. But to those of you who are patrons, I definitely want to say thank you, because we have been able to build a show amidst COVID over the last 7 months. And as a result, we are going to be able to do a very exciting special during the Democratic National Committee, which is being held virtually now. It is going to start on August 17th. Mark your calendars, through August 21st, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. It is 5 days a week. 1 hour show coming in right after the Majority Report, naturally, if you're watching that. But it's on our YouTube channel at The Nomiki Show. And for those of you who are patrons, you get a special show for the DNC, special interviews, and some extra archived coverage that we're going to be releasing that week. So double the whammy. And then the following week, we're going to do the RNC special. So make sure, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel here, and we'll be sharing some more promos and exciting guests in the coming days. So this week was seismic in terms of progressive wins. You know, we've had a few big progressive wins on the federal level in Congress, but this one was very personal to me. I'm sure you guys have seen my coverage on YouTube, in which I did a live stream talking about Cori Bush, who won. She won against an establishment, a dynasty that has been in office for over 50 years. Their names collectively, that name, Lacey Clay, has collectively been on the ballot in many different forms for 91 years. 91 years. William Lacey Clay had the seat in Missouri since 1991. And prior to that, his father had been in office since the late 60s. So Cori Bush, who had run against William Lacey Clay before, defeated the incumbent, but she didn't do it without hard work. Let me be very clear. Cori, she's a friend of ours. She was one of our founding members of Matriarch, the organization I'm on the board of, which supports working class progressive women running for Congress. But what Cori did was she did this really through hard work and you know, a very organized campaign and lessons learned from the previous election. The average time, they say, for a woman to run, the average number of times it takes is 3 times. So Cori has run 3 times. She's gotten her name out. She's built organization on the ground. She's not given up despite facing all types of obstacles. This is, you know, Cori is a nurse. She dealt with COVID while she was running. She was making phone calls from her hospital bed, which she had to go to twice. She was in the hospital twice. Her car was shot at, and that is not the first time that's happened. But before she ran, she had faced homelessness. She's a single mother. She has the financial stress that so many working people across this country have dealt with. And what is despicable is that her opponent used that against her as if it were an attack. And you're going to see more of this coming out. But what I really appreciate about Cori is that she did this in a very independent way. Nobody swooped in to save her. She had the support of some groups. She had Bernie Sanders' endorsement. She was a surrogate for Bernie Sanders. But all of that was really, all that energy came in really after she built the organization on the ground, after she had run twice before, after she had organized in the community as a Black Lives Matter organizer, leader, amidst the Ferguson uprisings. And of course, in her campaign, she was out there on the ground, organizing and fighting back. And her community saw that. This is going to be an interesting election year. I mean, I think so far we've seen the importance of coalitions in winning these races. And there was somewhat of a coalition, but I think what made this historic and seismic is that she ran against somebody who did not have high unfavorables, like an Elliot Engel did, or even a Joe Crowley in some ways. She did not run against somebody who was not invested in the community. He showed up in the community, went to events. He brought home the bacon, the pork spending, as they like to say in politics. But there was something missing. And I think what's happening right now is in communities across the country, people are feeling the pain due to COVID, the economic stress. If they are not already dealing with it, they're going to be dealing with it soon. So there's fear. There's, of course, a housing crisis. And in communities like Ferguson and St. Louis, the uprisings against a status quo political dynasty that has protected the police departments who have inflicted so much pain on these communities, that I think resonates deeply. And Cori was able to build a campaign operation that articulated a message that was different from Lacey Clay's. She was able to get her name out there, to get out there and talk to folks, despite the fact that campaigning during COVID has been so difficult, and it really has to be done through media. And that's where I think we're grateful to have worked alongside Cori at her leadership, really, and helping amplify as much as possible. But moving forward, I think one thing that we should be paying attention to is these turnouts. The turnout right now is extraordinarily high because so many states have had to incorporate mail-in systems. Now, Democrats with the big D, the Democratic Party, they have fought against voter suppression in general elections for years. They fought against, they talk about how Trump is trying to privatize the Postal Service, the most popular service in the country, because Trump wants to keep turnout low in the general election. But let me be pretty clear here. As someone who lives in New York, a Democratic state, someone who fought on the Unity Reform Commission, the Democratic Party cares about voter suppression in the general election, but not in the primaries, because ultimately what happens in the primaries is what happened in Cori Bush's race. You get higher turnout from progressives, from working people who don't have to take a day off work or hours off work to go and vote, working people who may have had to move several times in recent years, and their voting registration may be lost along the way. Students, young people, they often say young people don't vote. Well, a lot of that has to do with young people being more mobile, young people not being locked into one residence for years and years. It's not necessarily, as the establishment likes to say, because young people are apathetic. There might be a little bit of that. But, that's what comes with life. You learn as you go. And especially with young people facing such financial burden, whether it's student loan debt or just the cost of living, as we see with the Zoomers and of course, millennials organizing around the Sunrise Movement and other organizing on the ground across the country, they're fed up as well. But voting has been incredibly difficult during primaries, as we know. And the states that have the more open democratic laws have higher turnout, especially west of the Mississippi. So let this be a lesson to us. A lot of states have been forced to create mail-in systems that do actually increase turnout, and that helps challengers. As I've said before, when you have closed primary rules, it's for incumbent protection. Incumbent protection. Because incumbents have the name ID, they have a little star next to their name on the ballot because they've been elected. or they are the incumbents, but it's about keeping that universe of voters tight, the most likely voters to turn out every cycle, to remember who their names are, and to keep voting for them every cycle. And if you open up those voting laws, it creates an opportunity for challengers to come in and speak to an expanded group of voters who may not be as familiar with the incumbent's name or may not be as open to the incumbent. So I think we're going to see some more shocks. We have another set of primaries coming up in the next month, but this has been an interesting election, and I think it's going to carry on through the general election. So congratulations to our friend Cori Bush. If you have not seen our interview with Cori Bush, she made me cry. Go back in the archives on YouTube, on Patreon. She gave a great interview, and shout out to Sam Cedar, who hosted MSNBC this week. He filled in for Chris Hayes, where he also interviewed Cori Bush at the end of the show. You want to go check that out. That was on August 7th on Friday on MSNBC. All right, guys, we have a great show, and make sure to click that like and subscribe, because we want to build this show up as we go into our DNC coverage next week. Thanks for watching and listening to the Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.